I was recently on the Bob and Brad YouTube channel answering people's questions about their aches and pains. If you want to watch that episode, just click on the link below in the description. Otherwise, I'm answering other people's questions now that we didn't get to. And this one is from Yamini Sharma. L4-5 Diffuse annular disc bulge with posterior central bilateral paracentral disc protrusion causing mild to moderate thecal and mild bilateral lateral recess nerve root compression. This is all a nice description, but it doesn't tell me what kind of pain they're dealing with. I'm assuming it's back pain, but I don't know whether this is right-sided back pain, left-sided back pain, central back pain, is it sciatic pain? So when you leave your comments below asking about your own aches or pains, please be more specific about your questions so I know what kind of pain we're dealing with. First of all, what we need to understand is why you're having pain. It's very common in medicine that we would blame the pain on all of these things happening in their spine. These are structural changes to tissues in the spine. But many people with structural changes in their spine have no pain at all. So structural changes aren't necessarily the cause of back pain. The way I think of structural changes is that they are symptoms of biomechanical faults that then also cause back pain. So that's an important distinction because many people will say, oh, well, I've got a disc bulge. That means, well, game over for me unless I have that disc bulge operated on. No. The assumption is that the bulge is causing your disc, and that's often a false assumption, just like it may be for Yamini. So the way that we need to start understanding this is, here's a really simple test, Yamini. I'm going to ask you to lie down on your back with your legs straight for 30 seconds, and then change that to knees bent for 30 seconds. One of these two positions should help your pain significantly. Most people, especially if this is a chronic issue, most people with chronic back pain will say, oh, my back feels, I don't even have to do that test. My back feels so much better when my knees are bent. All right, so what is this telling us? And especially if you have all of these structural changes going on in your spine that I just listed out there, we're not affecting any of those structural changes. We're not removing them. We're not changing them in any way other than changing the stresses acting on them. And so if your back feels better with your knees bent in this position, then it's telling us that the forces acting on those tissues are more important than the tissues themselves. Does that make sense? I'm going to say that again. If we have all of these structural changes that I just listed earlier, and we change the leg position, and your back feels better, that means that the mechanics acting on your back are as important or more important than the actual structural changes themselves. Because if it was the structural change that was causing all of your pain, that shouldn't change whether your legs are straight, bent, or have one leg in the air or behind your head. So this is telling us that the biomechanics are maybe trumping the existence of those structures. I hope that makes sense. And so what this is then also telling us is that those structures feel better when your back is flatter rather than when your back is arched. Because when your legs are straight laying down, your back is more arched, and when you're lying down and your knees are bent, then your low back is flatter. It's as simple as that. So then what we have to do then, Yamini, is figure out what are the things that are causing your back to arch too much that are also contributing to your pain. Well, one of the most common things that I find is that when people walk around, they tend to lock their knees a lot when they're standing and walking. And especially a lot of people will shift their weight to one leg and lock that knee out and the other leg is bent, or they'll shift from one side to the other in doing that. Well, all of that, what that does is it pitches the pelvis forward. In fact, if you want to test this yourself, just go ahead and stand up and lock both knees backwards and feel what your back feels like. Now, simply unlock your knees just a little bit and you'll feel that your back is less arched when your knees are unlocked. And if you're not sure, just go ahead and lock the knees one more time and you'll feel that your back arches more. And we just learned with that test that your back hurts more when it's arched. Therefore, locking your knees when standing or walking is contributing to that arching and therefore more irritation in your back. Now, if your problem is during sleep, then what you would simply do is, if you're sleeping on your back, put a pillow underneath your knees. It doesn't have to be a massive pillow. Your knees might only need 10 degrees of flexion, and they may not need 30 degrees of flexion to feel better. And if you're a stomach sleeper, then put a pillow underneath your chest to allow your hip joints to flex, which takes that arch stress off of your back. So these would be the things I would start exploring, Yamini, to see whether this is helping. What I'm thinking is central back pain for you, but I'm not clear. And hopefully this helps reframe your idea of why you're having pain. Now, you would be a perfect person for my new book, Pain Patterns, which explains this whole systems-based approach to solving pain, which is much different than we're trained to do in medicine. What we're trained to do in medicine is more of what you described here, is isolating and identifying tissues that are wrong, rather than understanding why those tissues are wrong. That's what systems-based understanding does. So my book, Pain Patterns, is written for people with back, sciatic, SI joint pain, but frankly it would help people with hip, knee, and even foot pain too. I even have a chapter in there for people with neck pain and headaches. All of the tests and exercises in that book can be found as videos on my rickolderman.com website, so that have the best chance of being able to get things right and help yourself. The second half of the book is a workbook. So you will do the test and write down your answers in the book, so you completely have a big picture idea of the things that are causing your pain and how to fix those. I really think it's a game changer. It's the best book I've written so far. And it just won a national award. So that link is below as well. All right, so if you have your own questions for your own aches and pains, please leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to make a video to help you. And otherwise, subscribe, like, and share this video.